The Buffalo Bills bounced back in dominant fashion, and the film confirms it, especially when you take a deeper look at the performances of James Cook and Joey Bosa. What the scoreboard didn't fully reveal, the All-22 film absolutely did. This wasn't just a win over the New York Jets. It was a statement, a showcase of how this team can take control in the trenches, impose its physicality, and execute a game plan that not only highlights their stars, but elevates their depth. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball, where James Cook lit up the field and reminded everyone why the Bills invested in his skill set. Cook ran wild for over 130 yards and found the end zone twice. And this wasn't just a case of one guy taking over. This was a masterclass in run game execution from top to bottom. The Bills committed to the ground game like few teams do in today's NFL, racking up 43 rushing attempts for over 220 yards. That kind of volume isn't just about running to burn clock. It's about identity, control, and confidence in your blocking scheme. The real unsung heroes of that ground assault, the tight ends. This wasn't a game where tight ends were just extra blockers. They were the engines behind the run game. Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, and even Jackson Hall were all over the field, not just lining up but dominating at the point of attack. Whether it was zone runs that required lateral movement and creating wide lanes, or gap schemes where tight ends were pulling and smashing through defenders as lead blockers, the Bills used them all, and they executed them perfectly. Dawson Knox especially was in rare form. He was setting edges, driving defenders out of lanes, and creating daylight for Cook to glide through. Haw added physicality and discipline, while Kincaid, used a little differently as more of a space and technique player, still held his own, especially when he had to seal the corner or drive block on the perimeter. One example that stood out was on Elijah Moore's touchdown. Kincaid was the play-side blocker and absolutely buried the cornerback. That kind of execution across the board is what takes a good run scheme and turns it into a great one. What made this even more impressive is that the Bills ran into a lot of stacked boxes. 35% of their runs came against 8-man boxes, one of the highest rates in the league that week, and still managed to rank second in expected points added per rush. That's not just about play calling or numbers in a box. That's about winning one-on-one matchups and, more importantly, a running back who's making the right reads and cuts. And that brings us back to James Cook. The game looked slow for him, and for a running back, that's the highest compliment. He was seeing the field with clarity, reacting in real time, setting up his blocks, and dancing through traffic like he was on a different timeline. His 40-plus yard touchdown was a highlight, but there were multiple runs in that game where he made 2 or 3 defenders miss just by understanding leverage and angles. He's not just running through holes. He's manipulating defenders, finding cutback lanes, and turning decent blocking into explosive plays. Cook averaged over 8 yards per carry on his zone runs, and the Bills didn't just lean into one concept. They mixed in zone and gap, kept the defense off balance, and gave Cook a variety of looks to attack from. That multiplicity is critical. Some teams, like the Steelers for instance, lock themselves into one scheme and become predictable. Not Buffalo. They created advantageous angles for their blockers, widened the Jets' defense, and then let Cook do the rest. That ability to blend physicality with spacing is what makes the Bills' offense so hard to defend when they're clicking. And yes, it wasn't a lights-out day through the air. Josh Allen's stat line wasn't flashy, but the context matters. The Jets came in expected to play man coverage and blitz heavily. That's what they showed in Week 1. But against Buffalo, they flipped the script. They went from playing man coverage on 50% of their defensive snaps to just 29%, a massive drop. Blitz rate also fell from 35 to 20%. They went zone heavy, sat back, and forced Allen to work the underneath game. That unexpected shift clearly impacted the Bills' passing rhythm. And it wasn't just the coverage. There were 2 key drops by Dawson Knox, each killing drives and removing opportunities for Allen to continue working through progressions. Add a questionable offensive pass interference on Keon Coleman that wiped out a big gain and cost the team another set of downs, and suddenly the lack of big passing numbers starts to make a lot more sense. Every drop and flag is not just a lost play. It's lost momentum, lost rhythm, and lost chances to stack success. Also, there was a lot of traffic around Allen's feet in the pocket. The Jets' pass rush found some success with quick interior pressure, and that really affected Allen's ability to get into deeper progressions. Several times you could see routes opening up downfield, especially for Josh Palmer, but Allen couldn't hang in long enough to hit them. He had to reset, move off his spot, or even check it down earlier than he wanted. And in the NFL, when you're dealing with elite corners and disguise coverages, timing is everything. That's part of why the connection between Allen and Josh Palmer is still something to keep an eye on. Palmer led the team in receiving yards with just 2 catches, but the tape showed more. He was getting open. He was stacking defenders, getting vertical, and if Allen had cleaner pockets, those throws were there. It's not about what they did. It's about what they almost did. That's the kind of near-breakout performance you circle when you're looking ahead. There's a sense that the Bills are still ascending. The run game has found its groove. The tight ends are dominating physically. The wide receiver rotation is starting to settle, and you can feel that the passing attack is one tweak away from unlocking bigger plays. It's week 2. It's not supposed to be perfect yet, but the structure is sound, the adjustments are happening, and this team feels like it's building towards something real. And while the offense showed plenty of positives, the defense made just as loud of a statement. After struggling in week 1 to stop the run, the Bills flipped the script in week 2, shutting down the Jets' ground game and leading the league in EPA per rush defense that week. They tackled well. They communicated better, and they were aggressive, not just flying to the football, but winning their individual battles and trusting the scheme. It was a full-team effort, with every level of the defense doing its job. One of the most impressive shifts from week 1 to week 2 was the Bills' run defense. After getting gashed on the ground in the opener, this group responded with what can only be described as a clinic in gap control, tackling, and coordinated aggression. Despite missing key players like Ed Oliver, the Bills' defensive front stood tall, holding the Jets to minimal gains and consistently forcing long down and distance situations. That kind of response speaks volumes about the coaching staff, the locker room leadership, and the commitment to fixing issues quickly. This wasn't a performance that relied on 1 or 2 standout plays. It was a complete, disciplined effort. You had defensive linemen staying in their gaps, linebackers filling with speed and authority, and the secondary providing strong run support without overcommitting. The communication was sharp. The pursuit angles were clean. The tackling? Virtually flawless. The Bills were credited with only 1 missed tackle in the entire game. That's almost unheard of at the professional level, especially against a team like the Jets that usually finds ways to break off chunk runs. Bobby Babich, the new defensive coordinator, clearly made adjustments after week 1. He simplified some responsibilities, leaned on fundamentals, and trusted his young players to execute. And that trust paid off. Guys like TJ Sanders and Deion Walker weren't lighting up the stat sheet, but they did exactly what they needed to do. They held their ground. They didn't get bullied. They defended their gaps, maintained integrity along the line, and made life easier for the players behind them. When defensive tackles play disciplined football like that, it frees up the linebackers to be more aggressive, and it helps edge rushers pin their ears back and get upfield. And that's exactly what Joey Bosa did. Bosa was absolutely dominant in this one. On just 15 pass rush snaps, he recorded 7 pressures, 1 sack, and 2 forced fumbles. That's absurd efficiency. It wasn't just raw athleticism either. Bosa was winning with technique, timing, and awareness. He knew when to dip and bend, when to convert speed to power, and when to attack inside. But what really allowed Bosa to flourish was the structure around him. The rest of the defensive line was disciplined in their rush lanes, which meant the quarterback had nowhere to escape. The secondary held up in coverage, forcing longer reads and delayed throws. That extra second or 2 is all a guy like Bosa needs to wreck the pocket and create chaos. The synergy between coverage and pass rush was exactly what you want to see. Routes were capped, receivers were rerouted, and quarterbacks were forced into uncomfortable situations. It wasn't flashy, but it was effective. And the difference between week 1 and week 2 was striking. This group looked faster, more connected, and far more confident. And while Bosa was the headliner, plenty of others stepped up. Christian Benford, for instance, had himself a game. He made a massive stop on Breece Hall on a third-down run that looked destined to move the chains. Somehow, Benford met him in the open field and brought him down short of the sticks. That kind of one-on-one tackle doesn't just end a drive. It sets a tone. Earlier in the game, he also blew up a reverse that could have gone for a big gain. His physicality and instinct stood out, and he's starting to look like one of the more reliable pieces in this secondary. Trey White, returning to action, also impressed, particularly in the run game. Often viewed as a pure cover corner, White showed that he's willing and able to mix it up in the trenches. On 2 separate plays, he was forced to be the edge defender after the Bills slanted their front toward the strong side, and he stepped up, set the edge, and made clean tackles in space. That kind of play won't make the highlight reels, but it matters. It reinforces that everyone on this defense is accountable and capable, no matter the situation. Safety Cole Bishop was another bright spot. His timing, especially in run support, looked much sharper than it did in Week 1. He played fast, physical, and with purpose. It's clear he's processing things more quickly now, trusting his reads and exploding toward the football instead of hesitating. The kind of growth is exactly what you hope to see from a young safety early in the season. And while the individual performances were strong, the overall strategy was equally encouraging. The Bills sprinkled in 5-man pressures on about 23% of Jets' passing plays. Not an overwhelming number, but enough to create confusion and keep the quarterback from getting comfortable. And what makes that number even more interesting is the context. This was a game where the script got out of hand early. The Jets were behind. The Bills didn't need to show their full hand. They could have coasted, but they still used that 5-man rush to apply pressure without overcommitting. That's a sign of a team thinking long-term, still working on execution even when the game is already in their favor. There was also a fascinating wrinkle in the way the Bills deployed Javon Solomon. He was used more on the interior, which wasn't something many saw coming. Most assumed that Greg Rousseau would be the one shifting inside for pass rush opportunities, but Solomon got those looks, and while he didn't dominate, he held his lane and contributed to the overall push. What it hints at is future versatility, especially once Michael Hoy and Ed Oliver return. Imagine a front with Boza and Rousseau on the edges and Hoy and Oliver crashing the interior. That's a nightmare for offensive lines. And the snap distribution tells its own story. The Bills only played 47 defensive snaps, which is incredibly light. In fact, through 2 games, there isn't a single defender on the roster who has played more than 98 total snaps. Compare that to teams like Miami, who are coming into Buffalo on a short week with 6 defenders already over the 100-snap mark. That's a massive difference in workload and recovery. Fatigue matters in the NFL, especially when you're traveling, and the Bills should be the fresher team heading into that matchup. The defensive line rotation was effective and balanced. No one had to overextend themselves, and the staff was able to evaluate a lot of young talent in real game situations without sacrificing performance. It's early, but this defense is already showing signs of being deep, flexible, and well-coached. The tackling was on point, the assignments were sound, and the energy was high from start to finish. On special teams, Sam Franklin quietly delivered a standout performance. His tone-setting play helped flip field position early and gave the Bills momentum. Special teams often gets overlooked, but it was an important factor in how Buffalo kept the Jets pinned and controlled the pace. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. The rumor mill is buzzing in the NFL world, and if the whispers are true, the Buffalo Bills are ready to make a bold move to reshape their aerial assault. Sources close to the organization suggest that JAKOBI MEYERS, the versatile wide receiver known for his precise route running and clutch hands, could be the next major addition to Buffalo's already formidable offense. While nothing has been officially signed beyond preliminary talks, the mere possibility has fans and analysts alike speculating about the impact on the Bills' passing game. MEYERS, who has steadily risen as a reliable target over the past seasons, has been linked to several teams, but Buffalo seems uniquely positioned to offer him a starring role. The Bills, coming off another deep playoff run, have long been searching for that extra weapon to complement their elite quarterback and strengthen their vertical threat. Adding Meyers could provide the balance and experience they need, particularly on third downs and red zone opportunities. Insiders suggest that Meyers' route versatility and ability to find soft spots in coverage could mesh perfectly with the Bills' offensive scheme, which emphasizes quick reads, precision passing, and explosive big play potential. Rumors hint that the team's front office is working hard behind closed doors to finalize a deal that could see Meyers donning the Bills' blue and red jersey as soon as the next season. The speculation has already ignited a firestorm among fans on social media, with many envisioning highlight reel connections between Meyers and Buffalo's star quarterback. Analysts are weighing the pros and cons, debating how Meyers might shift defensive attention away from existing stars, potentially opening up even more opportunities for Buffalo's attack. One thing is clear. If this signing happens, it would send a strong message to the rest of the league that the Bills are serious about taking their offense to another level. For now, the deal remains in the rumor stage, but the buzz surrounding JAKOBI, Meyers, and Buffalo is undeniable. As the offseason unfolds, all eyes will be on whether the Bills can turn this hot rumor into reality, and in doing so, perhaps assemble one of the most feared aerial attacks in the NFL. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.